Okay, so now it's time to build in some pagination into our website. So in our projects page, once we exceed a certain amount of projects that are rendered out here, let's say we want to limit 10 results per project, we just want to have some buttons here at the bottom to allow us to navigate through different pages. So if you don't know what pagination is, just go ahead and go into that resources folder. And in the resources folder, pull up the template, and let's just pull up the projects.html page. And at the bottom, this is pagination. So we're paginating data. We're basically limiting it so we can navigate through and then get different results. So you've probably seen this on tons of websites. It should be a concept that's familiar to you. So before we get into the documentation, let me go ahead and just go back to the website here. We're going to do this for the projects and developers page. But before we get started, I want to add some data here. So we only have 5 projects. And to give you a better visualization of how this works, let's just go ahead and add some projects. So go ahead and log into some kind of account here and go through this add projects button. And I'm just going to fast forward through this, but we will just add a bunch of projects. So we'll just start by naming them like this. So I'll just go through 1 and then we'll go ahead and just increment that. And I'll add about 10 of these. So I'm just going to add them and then we'll fast forward through this. So just add some data so we can see this better. Okay, so I added about 10 projects or 10 more, and they are all output here now. So just to give us the first results initially, let's just go ahead and order these by date added. So I can actually just go ahead and go into my models.py file. So we'll go into the models here, and let's go to the projects. And at this point, we're going to order them by the date. So later on, we'll do this by like a rating, but for now, we can just add some meta here. And we can just do ordering. I believe it's ordering like this. And then that's going to be a list. And we can add in multiple attributes to order by. And we can just set this to created. So that's going to be the date. And I believe if I just do created, that's going to give me the oldest first. If not, okay, so it's going to give me the oldest first. And I can always, by the way, just invert that. So a little bit outside of the scope of this video. But if you do a dash, that's going to change it from descending to ascending order. So now this will give us the newest first. So that's how we can set the ordering to some projects here. So that's in the project model, and that's all we wanted to do. So I just wanted to order that just to make sure that we don't get all this dummy data on the top. So to actually paginate it, Django gives us a paginator class that makes this a lot easier for us. So we are going to have to import this. So I just looked up Django paginator. This will be in the Django documentation. And in here, we have the paginator class. And this class simply takes in a query set and it actually paginates that data. So in this case, we import the Django paginator. Then we also have a list of, I guess, names here, but this can be a query set. So all of our objects. And then in the paginator class, in this case, we set the variable to P. That's going to be our paginator. We pass in the query set. So it's going to be the objects. And then we set the number of results we want to allow per page. So I'll just go through a few of these and then we'll start working on it. So in this class, we have a bunch of attributes. So we can check the count, which is going to be the number of items in this paginator. In this case, we have 4 names. And that's going to be p.count. We get back the names. If we want to know the number of pages that this paginator will have, we can do p.num_pages. So with 4 results and giving us 2 results per page, the number of pages would be 2. We are also going to use this page range value. So if we do p.range, we can loop through the range of 1 through 3. So this is how we would actually output our buttons. We will use this value later. Let's see, let's go down here. I'm going to go into the has next value. So this is how we know whether to output the next button or the previous button. So typically you'll have your page numbers and then you'll have like a next and previous button just to have easier navigation. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started with this. We will reference this a bit later here. So let's go ahead and make this import. So from django.core.paginator, let's import the paginator. So let's go back in our code. We'll go into our views here and we'll just do from django.core.paginator. import the paginator class. So that's going to be with a capital P. So we have our paginator, and in our projects, we use the search projects function to actually filter down that data. So just underneath that, once we get back our search results or the query set, all we want to do is, just like the documentation says, we just want to set the paginator class and set the number of results. So let's go ahead and do this. So we'll just first set the page that we want. So we want this variable, and at this point, we're just going to set that to 1. So we're saying give us the first page of these results. And then I'm going to set the variable of results here. And at this point, let's just tell the paginator to give us 3 results per page. Now, after that, I can just go ahead and create that variable. So we'll just do paginator. And we are going to set this to the paginator class. So capital P right there. And let's just pass in projects. So that's going to be our query set. And we will pass in the results here. So we are saying, go ahead and paginate the results or the projects query set and give us the results here. Or give us 3 results per page because we have that set in here. So now that we have our paginator, which takes in the page number and the results, what we need to do is actually paginate the project. So at this point, all the projects are still listed out. So what we need to do is reset the projects variable, and we want to index it by a specific page and only get 3 results. So we can actually access the paginator now. So we set that right here, and the paginator class now, or the object, I guess at this point, now has a method here called page. So what page do we want to get from this query set? So we're going to set that to page, and at this point, that is going to be 1. So now we are going to get 3 projects, and we're going to get the first page of those 3 projects. So I'm going to save this now, and let's go into the front end. So at this point, we have all these projects, and we want this to only give us back the first page. So if I refresh this, now we get 3 projects, and we are only getting the first 3. So what if I want to get projects 4 through 6, I believe that's the index, or 4 through 7. So the second page. So if I open this up here, I can actually modify this. So I'm going to say, give us the second page and give us 3 results. So if I refresh it like this, now we are getting the second page. So the next 3 projects. So we want this to be done from buttons in the front end. So we obviously don't want to manually set this. So what we're going to do is click buttons here, and that's going to add in a search parameter to our browser. And that's how it's actually going to filter this. So in this case, we're going to change page to request dot get, and then we can do the get method dot get like that, and we want to get the page here, so that needs to be in quotes here. So we're going to get this page, and then this page is going to be passed in to this filter, and then it will output it. So at this point, we're actually going to get an error, so don't worry about this. I'm just going to show you how this works. So I'm going to save this, and if I go back to the page, we don't have that search parameter, so we're getting this issue. The page is not an integer. So it's going to have to look like this. So we can add in a question mark, and then we can just write in page, and then set equals to, and then the page that we want. So that is an integer. So if I hit 1, there we go. We get the first page. Then I can do 2, get the second page, 3, and then let's go all the way to 4. And there we go. So we are just getting the pages that we need. So there's a few things that we want to fix before we actually add out those or output those buttons. So the first one is, what happens when a user first goes to this page? They're typically going to go to projects, and they're not going to get that page value. So that's going to throw an error. So we want to fix this. And there are a few helper methods for this. So we'll make some imports. So with our paginator, we want to import something called page is not an integer, and then empty page. So down here, where we actually set that right here, so where we paginate the projects, we want to write a try catch. So we'll just do try, and then if everything goes good, that's going to be our result. So we'll get the current page. Then we can create an except block here. So we'll just do except, and this is going to be page is not an integer. So this means that if a page is not passed in, what do we want to do here? So in this case, I'm just going to set page to 1. So this is typically going to be that first load. So in this case, a user just clicks on that page, or they visit it for the first time. We're just going to take this query set and now pass in that page. So page will be 1. So if I go ahead and try this, let's refresh that. Now page by default is 1, and we can see the first set without any search parameters. So now we get rid of that error. Now, what if a user goes to a page that we don't have? So let's go to like page 1000 or 10,000. Now we get this empty page here. So basically it's saying, hey, there are no results on that page, so we don't know what to give you. So in this case, we can go back here and we can write another except block. So we'll just do except, and we will use empty page here. So in this case, we'll just set empty page. So if this is the error, then what do we want to do here? So I'm going to set the value of page, and this is going to be paginator dot num underscore pages. So this is an attribute, and this right here will tell us exactly how many pages we have. So we're basically saying if there is no page, so if a user for some reason goes out of that index, just go ahead and give us the last page. So at this point, I believe we're supposed to have about 3 pages, 4 pages. It's just going to give us the last one. So let's just try this. So now we can just go ahead and do projects, and we're going to set that to the page value. So it's going to give us whatever that last page is. So it's not going to throw an error. It just will go out of that index. So let's try this. So if I go to 10,000 again, now we're just getting the last page. So let's see what page that is. So if we go to 3, we see 2 through 4. If we go to 4, we see 5 through 7. Let's go to 5, 10. So not 45, but 5. So 5 is the last page. So if we go to 6, look what just happened. We didn't change. So basically we were out of that range. This error was thrown. So then it just went to page 5, and that's it. So that just helps us solve that little thing there. So now what we want to do is actually output something into our template through this or from this pagination. So we want to output these buttons. So let's go into our projects template and let's bring this out here. So in our theme, we already have styling. So if I actually open up, let's see, let's go into down here. So let's actually open up our resources folder in dev search. If we go to projects, we can already see, actually, I just realized that's inside of my template. So I actually have that. So let me just pull up that code and show you what that looks like. So I originally dragged in index.html into my root directories templates folder. You don't need to do this. We'll hand code it, but let's just take a look. So in index.html, at the very bottom, there is this paginator. So we just need the class of pagination to wrap it. Then we add a container, and then we just output the buttons. And as long as they have btn and then the selected button with btn -- sub, these buttons will output. So don't worry about this. We're just going to hand code this. So we'll go back into our projects template, and in projects right here, let's just start building this out. So we're going to put this just underneath that section here. So basically before the closing main tag. So we'll put it in here. So we'll create a div here, and I'm going to give this a class of pagination. So we'll just do pagination. That'll give us some styling too. Then in here, we want to create a UL tag. So we're just going to do this out of a list. And this UL tag here is going to have the class of container. So we'll just do class, and this will be container. Okay, so we have our container, and in here, we just want to output all those buttons. So let's just do this. We'll create a for loop here. So we'll just do for, and I actually want to end that loop first. So we'll just do end for. And what are we looping through? So in this case, we want to go into our views, and we want to output this paginator here. So we'll just take this paginator. Let's pass this into the context dictionary. So we need access to a lot of these values. So we'll pass this through the context dictionary. And in here, we can do for page in paginator like that. And then we can do for paginator or for page in paginator dot page underscore range. So in this case, if we go back to the documentation, this is what we're accessing. So it's just going to give us a range of buttons to actually output. So we're just looking through that range. We're going from 1 to 5 in this case. So let's go in here, and on each iteration, we want to output an li tag, and this needs to be a link. So we'll create a link here. Let's just pass in the current page, and then the actual link here is going to be href, and let's see, we're going to add in a question mark, and we'll just do page is equal to, and then we'll pass in the current page. So now when we're clicking on these, we are actually going to pass in that value. So that's what's going to allow us to change that filter there. So now all I want to do here is just output a button here. So let's go ahead and add in a class to this link, and we'll just do btn, and then we can do page dash link, and that should style our button. So that was from the theme templates here, or the theme that we downloaded. So if I go to my template now, let's see what this looks like. So we'll go in here, let's refresh it. Here we go, now we see some page buttons. So if I click through these now, we can actually navigate through them. So we're seeing the page change right here, and there we go, so that's linked up. So let's recap this. We went into our paginator class that we passed into the context dictionary. Then we simply loop through that page range that it gives us. So it gives us this attribute. It now knows how many pages we have. We're looping through and outputting all these. So there's a few other things that we can do here. So what I want to do is make sure that the selected page that we're on actually gets highlighted. So in this case, I want to write a condition inside of my for loop here. So we'll just write a condition. So we'll just say if the current page is equal to projects. So now that we outputted projects using the paginator, so right here where we set projects to paginator in the page, we now have more options than just a query set. So in this case, I can go to projects like this. So we'll go to if page is equal to projects.number, so the current number of the page that we're on. So if we're on the current page, then let's go ahead and create the end if statement. So we'll do end if, and I also want to write an else statement. So we'll just do else. So what do we want to do if the current project number, or that, I guess that page index, matches the current page button? So in this case, page is going to be 1 through, what do we have here? So we have 1 through 5. So if we are currently on this page, we still want to output this list item, but we want to add in one class to style it differently. So in this case, we'll just output the entire list item, and we will just do btn dash, so 2 dashes and then sub. So it's just going to be a different color. So if I refresh this, now we can see that. So as I click through this, now it actually lets us know what page we're on. So it looks a little bit more, I guess, friendly to the user here. They can see what's going on. And now I want to do a few other things. So in this for loop here, I'm just going to create some space or just outside it. I want to output the previous and the next button. So let's go ahead and check another condition. So this is outside of the for loop. The for loop starts and ends right here. We want to first output the previous button. So that means that if we are not on page 1, we want to have a button that allows us to go to previous. But if we're on page 1, we don't have a previous page, so we don't want that button. And then we'll do that for next here. So if we're on page 5, which is the last page in our index, we want to make sure next doesn't show up. So this is something that can be accessed through the paginator class. So we'll create that if statement. So we'll just do if projects. So remember, projects now is not, it's more than just a query set. So we'll say if projects has underscore previous. And to look this up, let's check out the documentation. We see has previous right here. So it's a method right here, but in the template, we're not adding those. And this is simply going to return true or false. So if we're on the second page, yes, we have previous. And if we go to has next here, or here we go, has next. If we're on the last page, it's going to be false. So we're just checking that condition. So we'll say if projects has previous, then we'll just end if here. So we'll just do end if. Let's just output a link here. So let's take this link right here. We'll just copy this one. We can paste that in right here. And we want to customize this too. So let's see. We want to first use a standard button. So we don't want btn sub here. And for the actual link, we can't just get the page number. So what we want to do is go to the previous page. So we'll just do page equals, and then we can actually access projects dot previous underscore page underscore number. So this will get us the previous page from the page we're currently on. So if we're on page 2, previous page will be 1, and then if we're on 1, well, this will not show up because there 1 is the very first page. So there is no previous page. Now, for the actual value here, let's go ahead and just get rid of this, or for the visual value, we're just going to say previous, but we'll shorten it like that. And then we're going to add in an arrow symbol, and that's going to use some HTML code. So we're just going to use the and symbol, pound symbol, and then we'll just do 10094, and then end out the semicolon there. And let's go ahead and save and refresh that. And let's see what we get. So at this point, we are on the first page. So we don't see it. There is no previous page. If we go to 2, now I see it. If we go all the way to 5, it's there because we have a previous page. So what happens if we click on this? So if we click on it, it's going to take me to 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it's gone. So we want to do the same thing for the next page. So anytime we are on any page that's not the last one, we want to be able to simply navigate by clicking to the next page. So just better navigation here. So let's go in here, and what I'm going to do is copy this right here, and let's just paste this after our list of buttons. So after the end 4, we'll paste this here, and we'll just say has next. So has next, and then we're going into page, projects, previous, and we're just going to next page. So these are all part of that paginator class. And now for the arrow, let's see, what are we going to do here? So I'm just going to do next here. So next, and then I want to add the arrow pointing to the right. So we want to add that after. And for this value is going to be the and symbol. So we'll do and, pound, and then we're going to 10095, and then end that with a semicolon. Okay, so let's see. So there we go. We have next. If we are in any one of these right here, we'll see both of these as long as we are not on the final or the first page. So if we go to next here, if we're on the last page, now we don't see it. So I want to do a few things here. So let's say that each page is allowing as many results as we want. So let's say we change this to like 100 or 1,000. Well, we have more than 1,000 here. So if I refresh this, we're going to see all of this, but now we are still going to see that paginator, and by default, it's just going to be on page 1. So we don't want this to show up if there's nothing to paginate. There's only one page. So what we're going to do here is we're going to write a condition around the entire div, and this div will only be displayed if there is pages to paginate. So around our pagination class, let's go ahead and write a condition here. So we'll just say if projects dot has underscore other underscore pages, then we output this, and if it doesn't, then we will not show it. So let's just do end 4, save and refresh that. Let's see what just happened. End 4, why is that not working? Oh, that was supposed to be end if. So end if, I always get these two mixed up. So that's an if statement. So now if we don't have a page, that will not show up, and if we do, it will. So let's just revert that, and I want to show you another issue that occurs here. So I just want to slowly debug and make this better. So this next one is one that I couldn't really find a solution for in Django by default. So we'll just get to that in a second. Let's make sure this shows up, and let's give this a shot. So if we go to the first page, now we see it because we have some pages. So what if we have a different range? So let's say we have more than 10 pages. Well, let's say we want to limit this and only output either 5 or 10 pages, but we don't want to output like 100 buttons if we have an insane amount of pages. So we need to create our own custom range, and I was looking at customizing the paginator class, and I found a solution that will be a little bit messy at first, but it'll actually solve it. So let me show you what I mean by this. So we'll just do custom underscore range. And for this, let's use the range function, and let's just say 1 through 1,000. This is pretty common to have. You can have more than 1,000 pages, or even 100. So let's just go ahead and refresh this and see what happens. So, oh, I forgot to pass that in. So let's say that our range is way out of our index that we want. So we'll just quickly pass this in. And I manually created that because I don't want to actually have to add so many products that we have a crazy range here. So let's go into our template. I keep forgetting what I'm doing here. So we'll go into this custom range, and now we're going to loop through not the project's page number or not the paginator page range. We're going to pass in the custom range. So this is supposed to show you if we have more pages than we want. So this is going to be your result, and you may not have 1,000, but what if that's, let's even say 20. Let's just go back in the view, and we'll just say you have 20 pages. That's something that's going to be very likely. I've had this in applications. So now 20 doesn't look that good. So how do we fix this? Well, what we're going to do here is we're going to create our own like range window. And if we are on the first page, we'll see the first 10 buttons. But if we exceed that, let's say we go to 15, Now we're going to see only 10 buttons, but we're only going to see, let's say, page 15 and then 5 pages to the left and then 4 pages to the right or something like that. So we want to create almost like a rolling window. So we're going to have to do this manually. So in this case, let's go ahead and go into our view. And in our view is where we're going to customize this. So we will actually continue to use this custom range value here. So down here, let's go ahead and start by creating the left index. So we'll just do left index. And this is going to be basically the page that's on our left side here. So left, not leg, left index. So this is going to represent the left button here. So this is either going to be 1. Actually, let's do this. So this is going to be the current page minus 4. So that means that if we are on page 5, the left index, the button will be 1. So if we're on page 10, the left index will be 5. So we're just basically running a quick calculation. Now, what happens if the left index is less than 1 here? So if we're on page 3 and we do 3 minus 4, that's going to give us a negative value. So we don't want that, so we want to write a quick condition, and we're going to say if left index is less than 1, so we want the very left page at a minimum to be set to 1, then we'll just do left index, and we're going to make that 1. So we're creating a left and right index. So for the right index, let's go ahead and do right index. And this is going to be set to page plus 5. And I always want to make sure that the page is always a number. So let's just wrap this and we'll say integer, wrap this around it. That way we won't get any errors if for some reason that's a different value. So we're always confirming that page is a number. So we can actually add these, or we can actually subtract and add. So the right index, if we are on page 5, well, the far right button or the far right page will be 11 at this point. So we're creating this window, and this will give us about 10 pages. If anything, we'll customize this or we'll update it. Now for the right index, what happens if we have 15 pages and we're on page 14? Well, we don't want to be outside of that index all the way on page 19 if we only have 15. So we're going to do the same thing like we did for our left index. And we're just going to do if right index is greater than the page number. So we'll just do page or paginator. So paginator.num pages. Then what do we want to do with the right index? We're just going to set it to the very right page then. So if we're on page 14 and we have 15 pages, the right index at this point, if it exceeds it, it will be now 15. So we'll just do right index is equal to paginator.num pages. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here is set the custom range, and we're going to set the custom range to the left index, and then we're going to set this to the right index. So we'll go ahead and set that. And now we shouldn't get that issue if we ever exceed it. I'm trying to think of how to actually show you this value. So let's take a look at this. So far, everything is checking out, and I think we're supposed to have 5 pages. So one of the calculations here is not right. So we should have a 5th button here. So to actually fix this, I think we need to fix the right index. So this value needs to be the page number plus 1. So that should do it. So we're supposed to have 5 pages here, so we just need to add 1 to the end, and there we go. So that looks better. So now we have 5 and through 1. So let's say we only want to show 3 pages each time. So let's do this. The left index is going to be the page number minus 1, and the right index is going to be the page minus 5. So even though we have 5 pages, we should only see 3 at a time. So let's try this. So if I refresh it, that looks a little bit weird right now, but we're only seeing the 2 pages and then 3. So you see how we have a rolling window? We're not seeing 1. So what I could do is quickly just set one of these. So let's just set the right index to the page plus 2 here. That'll give us a bigger window. So here we go. We have 5, but now we only see 2 through 4. If I go to 4, we're seeing 3 through 5. So that's that rolling window. So all we need to do to make this give us that range of 10 is simply extend these. So let's see, we have our page. So it'll be the page minus 4, and then I believe 5 should do it. If that calculation's off, just adjust it. But now if we have 1,000 pages, we will never see 1,000 pages output like that. So that fixes the issue. So at this point, this view right here, the projects view, is getting really messy. So we have a lot of logic in here. So just like we did with the custom search projects function, what we're going to do is take all this logic right here and we're going to output this into our utils.py file. So let's start creating that. So in our projects app, we already have this utils.py file. So what I'm going to do just above our search projects function, we're going to create a new function and we're going to call this paginate projects. So we're going to paginate the projects and we're going to go ahead and pass in a few parameters in here. So inside of paginate projects, we're going to pass in request. So we still need that search request. And then we want to pass in query set. So we'll just do query set, or let's just say projects. And then we want to pass in the results. So how many results do we want to allow per page? So these are all things that we already done in the view. Now we want to return the custom range. So we'll just do custom underscore range. And we want to return the results here, or the actual project. So we'll just do projects. Okay, so we have a custom range and we have our projects. So what we want to do is go back into our view and let's just take all of this. So let's go ahead and start from the custom range and we will bring that all the way up to this value where we start the page. Let's go ahead and copy that and remove this. So we'll just do cut and then we can pass this into the pagination projects function. So we'll call this paginate like that. So paginate projects. So the function is going to be in charge of taking in these requests here. So the request, the projects, and the results, and it will simply paginate all this. So in this utils.py file, we need to take in this right here. So let's just copy and we'll just do a cut like that. Let's import this in here. So we need to make sure we have access to all this, and I'll just paste that in below the queue method. And I think that's it at this point. So we have our search project function and our paginate projects function. Let's go into our views now and let's just import this. So we'll just do from utils, import paginate projects. And now we can go ahead and use this inside of the projects view. So just underneath our search query, what we're going to do here is we'll set custom range. So we'll do custom underscore range because we do need to pass that into our template here. So custom range, and then we also want to get, let's see, we also want to get the results here. So the actual projects. So we'll just do projects. And this is going to be set to paginate projects. And in here, we need to pass in request. So we'll throw in request here. Then we want to pass in projects to paginate. So projects. And then we want to pass in the amount that we want to show in the results. So let's just do 6 at this point. So we'll show 6 results each time. So I think I have everything now. So we need to pass in the paginator. Let's see. So we still need access to this somewhere in the template. Actually, we are using a custom range. So if I go back to the projects, we're looping through a custom range. If for some reason we need that paginator, all we'll do is go ahead and update the paginate projects function. So let's go ahead and save that. So basically, if we needed that paginator anymore, I would just take this and pass it in right here as another value. So at this point, we do not need it. So now everything's done through this paginate projects function. We tell it how many results we want, and that's going to be 6. We get the projects, and that should be good. So let's see if we have any errors. Looks like we're good so far. And let's try this again. So we'll go in here, go to page 1, and we have our range and everything is working. So perfect. All that checks out. So what I want to do next now is I want to actually use this paginator in multiple areas in my code here. So just like the navigation bar, what I'm going to do is export the paginator into its own template. So it's going to be its own HTML file, and we're simply going to include it in every page. And we can actually pass in data into these templates or into these, I guess, HTML blocks. So let me show you how to do that. So we'll go into our root directories templates folder. And we'll go ahead and create pagination. So we'll just do pagination.html. And remember, we want to use this in multiple parts of our code. So we want this for our developers. So that's why we're going to export it. So let's go ahead and take all this code right here. So let's take this if statement all the way down to end if. Let's copy that. We'll remove it. And then we're going to put this into paginate.html. So in here, I'm going to save this now. let's go ahead and actually include it in our code. So we'll just go ahead and include it. So now that we have it exported, we can just do include. So include, and then we're going into paginate. Let's see, what did I call that actually? So that was in our root directories templates folder, pagination.html. Okay, so if I refresh that, I think at this point I can get away with not customizing anything else. Let's try that. So we still see it, even though that is not in our projects.html code anymore. We simply included it. Now, in order to use this in our developers page here, we want to customize the pagination, because in developers, this is going to be developers and not projects, or in profiles when we're listing profiles. So what we're going to do here is we're going to change every single value that says projects, and we're going to change it to query set, because this value should be dynamic. So we'll just do query set, and let's just update all of these. So we'll go to projects here, then I see projects here, projects, and let's see, where else do I see it? Projects right here, anywhere to the right. No, I don't see it there. So we're just going to simply update all these values. So I'm going to do a Control F and look for projects, and I don't see it anywhere in this page. So at this point, this will break my code. So let me just go to the template. Let's confirm this. So if I refresh this, the pagination will not show anymore because we are looking for a value called query set and we don't see it. So to make this truly dynamic, we can go into projects here and we can actually pass in I guess props, if that's the term you're familiar with, but basically properties down to a child. So in this case, we can pass in with, and we're going to say query set. So we're basically saying we're going to pass in a variable called query set. And this is like a key value pair, but the value here is going to be projects. So now inside of pagination.html, query set is going to be the projects. And then later on, this will be profiles. So we're saying query set projects, we'll pass that in. And then we can go into the custom range and we'll say custom underscore range. And the custom range here will be the custom range that we pass in from our views here. So custom range. So I hope that makes sense. We basically include this part in our code, and then we can say with, and then pass in a key and a value. So query set in this case will be projects. Custom range will be the custom range from the projects view. So we'll save that. And let's try this now. So if I go ahead and refresh this, we should now see our pagination. So that checks out. Perfect. So now what I can do is I can go into my, I can take this right here. So I can take all this code and I can go into my profiles view and actually add this. And then we're going to have to customize that too, so we actually get some data. So in this case, we'll go ahead and close out projects.html. We can close out pagination. Actually, I'll leave that open for now. Let's close out our views. And let's go into our profiles now, so our users. So down in the views inside of our users app now, we can go into, actually first we want this in the template. So let's go to, let's see, account, login, profiles, profiles.html. And let's add this down here. So we'll go ahead and bring this in. So just underneath main inside of profiles.html, I'm going to paste that in. So we use the include method, pagination.html. With query set, in this case, we are going to profiles. And then the custom range, will pass that in a second. So now this will paginate all the profiles. So I'm not sure if this will give us an error. It most definitely won't work correctly. So we still have to build it in, but I don't think it'll give us an error. So let's go to the home page and we're not seeing it. So we have no paginated data. So to actually make this work, what we're going to do is go into our utils.py file within our users app. So let's open this up now. So we're going to users, utils.py. Let's open this up. So this is for our projects. This is for our users. And let's take this entire function here. So we'll take this function all the way up to the paginator. Let's copy all of this and we're going to paste this into our utils.py file inside of our users application. So we'll paste this in. And we're just going to customize this. So this will say paginate profiles now. So profiles. And then this will be profiles here. And let's just take this value, paste that in here. So we'll just update all the projects with profiles. And we want to output profiles now. So the custom range will be the same. So nothing different here. We're just updating the values. So let me do a control F here, and we'll just look for projects, make sure we updated everything. So now we have a function called paginate profiles, and it does the same exact thing. We get the request, we get the results, we paginate it. In this case, it's just a different query set, and we have that range window. It's the beauty of making reusable code. So now we can get paginate profiles, and we'll go into our users views.py file, and we'll just do paginate profiles. And we just want to use this in the view now. So we'll go down to our profiles view. And after this, we can go ahead and just customize this. So we'll just do custom underscore range. And then we want our profiles. So we'll just do profiles. And that's going to be set to paginate profiles. And this takes in request. It takes in the profiles. And it takes in the amount of results we want per page. So at this point, because we only have 3 results, let's just set this to 1 and see how it works. So we also want to take this custom range and we want to pass this in. So let's just throw in custom underscore range and then pass in that value, custom range. Okay, so let's recap here. So we just duplicated the paginate profiles function to update the values. And now inside of our profiles.html, we include the pagination. The query set this time is now the profiles, and the custom range is the custom range for the profiles. So if I save this, let's take a look at this now. So at this point, let's see, for some reason we are not having that paginated. So I think I need to update the paginate function here. So let's see. So results, we need to actually get rid of this inside of paginate projects here. So that's in paginate projects, and we need to go back into our users inside of utils. So we want that value to be dynamic from that instead of manually sending that. So that's why we're passing it in. So inside of my paginate profiles value, let's just take out results because we're passing in a result in the view, but then it gets updated here. So let's remove that, and now let's try this. So just remove results from both functions here inside of paginate profiles and inside of paginate projects. So that value again is passed in here. So I'm just kind of refreshing for myself. We get that passed in right here, and it should be 1. So I was just debugging there. I tried to test a few things. So now let's go in here. We get 1 result. We can go to 2 and 3. So that looks really bad at this point, but once we actually add in some more values, this will look better. So if I go back into, let's see, let's change this to 3 for now. So we'll paginate 3 profiles at a time, and we'll update that to like 6. Now we won't see anything in the home page, but we can still go to the projects. So we are facing another issue here. So right now, our paginator and our search format here does not work together. So let's try to look something up here. So let's try to go to, let's say yoga. So we'll just do YO, or let's just try Y like that. Let's see, what does that give us? So it gives us all the projects that start with Y. There's enough results, so it doesn't need to paginate them. So let's go back in here, and let's go ahead and close everything out, and let's go into our projects inside of the view, and let's change that result to 1 here. So we want 1 project. No, that's profiles. Okay, sorry. So we'll leave that at 3. We'll go into our projects app, and in our projects app, let's change this to like 2. So let me show you the issue now. So if we stick to Y, now we have 3 pages. So this paginates all the projects that start with Y. So right now, if I clear it, we have over like 8 pages. So we have 8 pages. But if I type in Y, now we have 3 pages. So what happens here is the search form and the paginator don't work. So if we look at this right here, we see the search query and then the letter that we're querying it by. If we click on the paginator, it should take me to page 3, but it shouldn't have more than that. It should also include the search value. So Y should stay in here. But if I click on this, the search query goes away, and now we're on the page, and that gives us all 8 pages, and now we're not filtering by Y. So what I need to do is basically ensure that when we click on the paginator, the search query stays, so we can paginate and go through the pages of a filtered down result. So those two don't work together. This is also something that I found a custom option for that I pretty much manually built in. So in the next video, we are gonna link up our paginator and our search form.